This is the island of Sodor, home of Sir Hat's railway. In the branch line, Percy's always taking the mail. He always meet Thomas and Toby. In the main line, Gordon was pulling express. Express coming through, which they reach the end of the island of Sodor to the mainland. Ferry continues next beyond. One day, Henry was pulling goods trains on his way to the mainland. But he decided to go faster. Slow down, Henry. But Henry didn't know that track was very unconstructed until it was too late, and then anything happened at once. No one was hurt, but Henry was brutally damaged. He might go to the steamworks. That night, Sir Hat came to see all the engines. Now listen up, everybody. Henry has out of actions when he crashed and had an accident. He might send him to repaired, and he won't be back at few days. And then we need another engine who go into the mainland with the goods trains when Henry was in the steamworks. Thomas had looked up at excitement that he liked to go to the mainland. So Tubba had choose Thomas. Thomas, I think that is a job for you. Thomas was very happy. That made him very special. Soon his goods trains was ready, and Thomas was ready to go. The mainland was very a long journey. I can't believe when Sir had given me the important job. He wasn't soon enough. The Diesel was spying on Thomas. Then, Thomas could see the signal ahead. Thomas tried to stop, but he slipped by the rain. Oh, what is it now? I better back up. Thomas had to wait for the signal to clear, but until... Cinders and ashes is a Diesel! Diesel glared at Thomas. Nobody knows about that. When Diesel was taking over the railway. And then we might get rid of all the Diesels. As I was saying, give me that goods train. Never! Fine. If you don't give me to the goods train, I'll give you 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3... Ow, that really hurts. Leave my friend alone, Diesel. Thomas was surprised. Bust my buffers. Who are you? I'm a big blue duke. You also could call me King George. I'm Thomas, by the way. Do you know how to get to the mainland, please? Surely I can. Hold on tight. I'll get you, blue puffball. Thomas and the big blue Duke went to the sheds. They already delivered the goods trains to the mainland, and Thomas liked sharing stories. I always remember the time when I get rushing to the Great Railway Show to get to the Figurstown Bridge, when I jump over the bridge and land on the rails on the time. Wow, you sound like a big adventure after all. As a matter of fact, when I went to the great over the country and around the world, I liked it being there. It was so amazing around the world. Thomas loved sharing stories with King George, and he also too. Thomas went happily to sleep. Back in the island of Sodor, they didn't know where Thomas is. I didn't know that Thomas that going missing. He was going to the mainland by now, unless he going to King Cross. Thomas should be back by now. Me do I. It was so convinced about Thomas now. Well, Thomas will be back tomorrow morning. Or other cases. And soon, all the engines went to sleep. They didn't know what happened to Thomas, but they will stay tuned. By next day, Thomas and King George are spending the day working in the yard. Thomas has tried to push the stone trucks. King George spoke kindly. Do you need help? No thanks, I could do it by myself. Thomas had accidentally tipped the truck over, and all the stones are tilted and spilled all over the tracks. Cinders and ashes. Don't worry, we will clean it up. Meanwhile, back on the island of Sodor, Percy and Toby looking very worried about Thomas. Hey Toby, is Thomas coming back soon? I don't know, Percy. He will be back. But in another case, I happen to go to work with the Quarry, and I supposed to take Thomas's branch line. I'm sure Thomas was alright. Well, good luck with your passengers. Later that evening, Thomas had to take some cars to the quarry. King George warned him to be careful about the weather. Soon, Thomas went up to the quarry. He almost nearly to the quarry. Then, Thomas started screeching to the stop in a reverberation. He looked up. He'd never seen a mountain before. I hope the rocks will not unstable. Unfortunately. But Thomas didn't know that Diesel was up there. The Diesel started to push the trucks up there. And then the trucks crashed through the buffers and plunged into the ravine. bust my buffers! But Thomas had to continue on his journey. Diesel watched Thomas go. He decided to make up a plan. That night, Thomas was feeling very worried. King George could see Thomas was upset. Thomas, are you okay? But Thomas didn't answer to speak. But at last, Thomas spoke. Well, and the fact is, I almost about to go into the quarry. I saw the cars plunge down into the ravine and crashed. And I didn't notice about the rocks. When unstable, but it wasn't. But I don't know how about the clue. It is really hard to tell. But my fact is, I wish I had to go back to Sodor now, or unless to get lost. King George had comfort to be Thomas. Cheer up, Thomas. Don't worry. We will find a way out, unless Diesel will be out there. Thomas always missed his friends so much. Meanwhile, back on Sodor, all the engines are still worried about Thomas. Thomas will never going to find a way back. He knows he was in trouble, or he will get lost. Did even Thomas will go back? I don't know. So all the engines still waiting for Thomas to come back, but Henry wouldn't return until he was fixed. Meanwhile, back on the mainland, Thomas still missed his friends so much. Don't worry, Thomas. Diesel wasn't there. We just could puff away. You and I will going to the countryside and going through it until you get your home. Thomas wouldn't believe that, but he'd agreed at King George. Okay then, let's go. But Diesel weren't there. He knocked the stone trucks off the track and spilled all over the track with his stone. King George and Thomas rushing down to the countryside. But then there was trouble. King George! Keep going, Thomas. Just go. So Thomas raced away and Diesel followed him. Thomas was getting closer and closer to the cliff. Thomas had passed through the switch. but the diesel had been switched and plunged off the cliff. No! The diesel was now gone. Bust my buffers. But well, lucky I got survived. But all with that, I'll be gonna help with King George. Soon, Thomas had found King George. King George got himself derailed. Thank you for rescuing me. That was nothing. But you can visit on Sodor here. There's a place for a repair yard. King George smiled. Thanks, Thomas. Soon, all the engines are very happy to see Thomas again. Henry was already repaired and he was returned to the sheds. He was glad to see Thomas again, even though King George will stay on the mainland. But Thomas and King George are very good friends indeed. Just once for one time. Hey Thomas, do you know about King George? But who? Just wait until then.